Hey, this is John Regan from Keyboard. We're kicking off a brand new segment called Ask the Artist. We're here with Juan Pan over there, the great James Poyser in the Tonight Show band dressing room. And these are questions submitted by fellow artists. This is Dan Goldman from London, actually from Leeds in England. He also goes by JD73. You're a fellow Brit.
I'm a fellow Brit from Sheffield.
From Sheffield.
Not too far from Leeds.
So, Dan has some questions, very Rhodes-tinged questions. We're hoping you can answer these.
Okay.
Hey James, Dan Goldman aka JD73 here from Leeds in the UK. I've got a few questions for you. Here goes. First one is, I read that Herbie Hancock once came to your studio to record and tuned your Rhodes up for you, which must have been very surreal. Did he give you any tips about the Rhodes or any secrets about his incredible Rhodes sound that you could talk about? Or perhaps any stories from Herbie that you'd like to elaborate on?
Well, he actually didn't come to tune the Rhodes. He came in, was working on an album, and he came by the studio and was jamming with myself and Questlove.
Yeah.
And one of the keys on the Rhodes was out of tune. And he popped the top off, said, "Do you have a Phillips head?" And I handed him a Sharpie instead. And he signed it inside the Rhodes, and he tuned it up. And he was telling us stories about the early days of Rhodes, how he said the control panel on the front, he partially to blame for it being there, because early on I think he said he did a concert somewhere and he had wire, he was an electrical engineer, so he had wires and things all in his Rhodes. And Mr. Rhodes?
Harold Rhodes.
Harold Rhodes came out and said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm trying to get this particular sound, but you don't have connections for it up here," and hence those connections were placed in the road. Again, that's what I heard.
Would you say Herbie is your biggest influence when it comes to the Rhodes and your approach?
Absolutely.
And who are your biggest influences?
Some of my influences are filling gains also, oh my gosh, there's so many players, Chick, of course, Donny Hathaway, absolutely, with his playing at Stevie, of course, all of the players, I try and listen to all of them, so and I've gleaned pieces of information from all the great players.
Wow.
Joe Sample, oh my God, of course.
When you play on sessions that require Fender Rhodes or other quality vintage keyboards, do you generally get your own keyboards brought across, or use what's available to you, or hired instruments?
Yeah, I use what's available.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with turning up to a session or gig or a TV show and the Rhodes or Hammond are in bad shape?
I complain a lot. I mean, you try and get the job done as best you can. If there's no way to replace it, you get the job done. But I'll complain quite a bit.
Would you use a rompler or a sample set in that situation, or get stuck into tuning up and voicing, or repairing the instrument yourself?
It varies. There's times where the sample thing can work. So in those situations, I'm fine with using a sample Rhodes. I don't use the real Rhodes on the TV show. I just use the Rhodes sounds in the motif and in the rolling piece. So whatever works.
You can get by.
You can get by, absolutely.
Do you have a specific way of recording your gear? Another question, do you have a go-to recording chain at home or when you're away for recording your keyboards in order to get your sound just right? And when you're working away in a studio, do you always get involved in the mix stage so that you can always maintain the aesthetic you're after?
No, there's times where I've done crazy things like, just mic the cabinet, just mic the insides, or run it through pedals, or run it through an amp, or mic the amp, or just, direct straight in. It varies. It depends on the situation.
When working, producing artists, do you usually have something prepared, grab something from your vault of ideas, or do you prefer to jam something from scratch with the artist?
Again, I do create a lot for no reason at all, just to have ideas. But I noticed the stuff that feels best to me is when it's just, you know, just natural, and you're sitting down with an artist and you're actually creating on the fly. A lot of the records that I've done where it's just, you know, just sitting down and most of the records I've done, I can say, have just been just creating on the spot.
Like Water for Chocolate, Voodoo, Mama's Gun, and Things Fall Apart are some of my all-time favourite albums that you were involved in. Do you think the Soulquarians will get back together to make more records, and do you have any stories from back in the day about those amazing sessions?
Those sessions were just great. I remember a lot of the time we were working at Electric Lady Studios, and it would be all the artists there, you know, and we'd have all 3 rooms rocking at one time. D'Angelo would be in one room, and Erykah in another, and Common upstairs, and everybody would just go in between. You know, the song Chicken Grease, that was on D'Angelo's album, was a song that we were writing for Common. And after we finished, D'Angelo said, I want this for myself. We gave Common something else. So it was just a lot of fun, a lot of family times, I should say.
And one last question from me. If it's not top secret, which it probably is, what's that crazy envelope filtered Hammond stroke Rhodesy sound that we often hear on D'Angelo records?
Oh, it's top secret.
Really?
I'm not saying anything.
Limits.
Anyway,
Thanks, James. It's been an honour to be able to ask you these questions, and all the best from sunny Leeds here in the UK.
a very big thank you to the great James Poyser for taking time out of his work here at the Tonight Show. Thank you, James.
Thank you so much.
We're honored to have you, and
Thank you so much.
And we want to get a shot of the Questlove's jukebox over here, which is possibly the coolest looking throwback ever. All right, thanks a ton.
Bravo.
Nice one. Very good.